Hey friend and family, this is Mark, and I have a question for you. What are you afraid of? If you were my wife, you might say you're afraid of spiders. If you were my daughter when she was 4 or 5 years old, you might say you're afraid of the dark. Whatever it is that you're afraid of, we're going to be talking about fear today, and as always, I'm going to give you 3 truths that you're going to be able to take with you that are going to change your life forever. So let's get started, shall we? The first thing you need to know about fear is that there's actually 2 kinds. You could say reasonable or unreasonable, or irrational and rational. A reasonable or irrational fear is one that makes sense in regards to that standpoint you should be concerned, like being in a burning building or at the edge of a cliff in the Grand Canyon, or even facing off at a lion at 6 feet away in Africa. They're reasonable from the standpoint that there are things that you should be concerned with. We'll tackle irrational fears in a moment, but what you need to understand is this. The first truth is that a freedom journey, the freedom life that we are living, is not one that is completely absent of fear. If you don't have any fear in your life at any time, there's probably 1 or 2 things happening. You're either not doing anything worthwhile, or honestly, you're somebody who may want to seek therapy. That phrase, no fear, is a phrase that's been great and people have loved it, but the truth is that it's not the truth that we live in. So give yourself a break. A brave person isn't one who has a lack of fear in their life. A brave person is somebody who has fear in their life and performs the task anyway. This takes us to our second truth, and we'll talk about irrational fears. Did you know, I'm sure you did, that one of the biggest forms, most common forms of fear is the fear of public speaking. Now, you and I, being people of logic, we understand, unless, of course, you are afraid of speaking in public, but we understand this, that's just an irrational fear. There's no harm in speaking in public, nothing that can happen to you that would hurt you. But what if I was to tell you about my friend John and how he has this great fear of speaking in public? And the reason is that the last time that he tried to speak in public, he tripped on the way to the podium. And after he got there and heard all the laughter from everybody, while he was speaking, he actually had his pants drop down and people could see his Star Wars underwear. If that was the background, then you'd understand why his irrational fear made some sense. The story is funny until you realize that many of us have the same issue. Have you ever been in a relationship that didn't work out and you stopped dating for a while, you just decided I'm better off alone? Or maybe you raised your hand in class, your college professor picked you or took you and you had an answer, but your answer was wrong. And you felt so embarrassed that you made a vow, hey, I'm never going to raise my hand again in class. Or you trusted a friend with a secret, something that you only told them, and they betrayed you. And because of that, you walled off that part of your life and vowed that you'd never have that happen again. The second truth is, for many of us, maybe even most of us, the issue isn't the fear that we're dealing with, sometimes even on a daily basis. The issue is the pain or the event that caused that fear to happen and the meaning that we've given it for our lives. There are so many fears that we deal with in our lives, even limits that we place on ourselves and walls that we put around ourselves. And I'm not saying that the hurt and the pain are real. I'd never invalidate what you've gone through. But what I would encourage you in is this: the freedom journey is one that says, I'm not going to let my fear identify who I am any longer. And hey, I know it may sound like another cliche, like don't let your past determine your future. But the truth about those things is they make a great bumper sticker and a lousy guide. The proof of it is not really in knowing all of these phrases and things, but in how we apply them to our lives. How I live it out is what matters most, not whether I know the phrase or not. Which takes us to the third truth. In freedom, in this freedom journey, the fastest way to resolve a fear, to overcome a fear, is by confronting it. And we're going to go into this in further detail in our upcoming course called Freedom Basics. But in the meantime, I want to give you a primer to be able to actually have some victory in that area in your life. So I've got 3 questions I want you to ask. The first question is, how long have you been dealing with this fear? Sometimes we've dealt with a certain fear for so long that we believe that we've always had it. But the truth is, every fear has a beginning. And the sooner we can identify where the beginning of that issue is, the sooner we can be free of it. The second question is, what event triggered your fear. The truth is that fear doesn't appear on its own, but it's a response to an event. And like my friend John, who had a past experience that informed his current fear, sometimes we have the same thing. And the sooner we can examine and identify what that event was, the more we can walk towards the freedom that we're called to. And the third question is, what did that event tell you about yourself? And this is a freedom moment, because the truth is that fear isn't an arbitrary emotion, but it's an emotion that has an identity attached that says, I'm powerless, I'm scared, I'm valueless. You see, there was a judgment made at the time of the event, an identity that you had attached to you because of the event, and then a fear that sprang from that you experience every time that event is triggered. But what if today is your day of freedom? Hey, Freedom Family, your journey starts today and your answers are on the way. You already know this, but I want to make you aware that, hey, we post videos every Thursday, _freedom for life _ We are happy that you're part of this channel, this conversation, and this family. So if you could subscribe, man, I don't want you to miss out any of the truths and tools that are there for you. And also, please put a comment down below. I want to know what your fear is that you've overcome, or even the thing that you're challenged with. And I really want to know if there's any areas that you want us to tackle in this conversation as we walk along this freedom journey together. And if you could hit that like button as well as the bell, I want to make sure that every time we get some tools out there for you, some truths that you need to hear, that you're able to see it and hear it. Hey, I'm Mark. I am so glad to be on this journey with you. I hope you have a great week, and we will see you next week. Peace.